Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Ears to the East, where once again it is I am Benedict, as Neon is trying desperately to stay with us in the land of living. It's an illness day. We love him. We hope he will
Hang
be
in
back very
there.
soon. Hang in there, Neon. I should give him send him one of those posters, the stereotypical one of the cat. Hang in there. He would send that back to me with an angry letter,
It's not.
probably. So anyway, as previously when Benedict was ill, me and Neon played a little game of What If, where we just asked each other random what if questions, and we thought we'll give it a little go now. So are you ready for a little bit of What If? Yeah, think you can handle it?
Let's go for it. But I'm interested.
All right, well, I should point out that the Benedict actually did not see the previous episode, so I'm going to open by asking one of the questions that I asked to Neon. All right, you ready for this? All right, Benedict. What would you do if you had a choice? All of the bands you know and love can continue to exist forever, but they can only ever use acoustic guitar. Well, they can never use an electric guitar again. Never ever use electric guitar again. Would you continue with all the bands you love, knowing there will never be an electric guitar again, or would you be willing to never listen to any of them again and start from zero finding new bands?
But like the new groups, they can use electric guitars.
Yes, the new groups can, yeah.
That is a difficult question. But
I
I can only choose one.
Yes, of course. It's What If.
Because I would like go for a in between. Like I would love to hear acoustic stuff from a lot of groups. So I wouldn't like say I don't want to hear that. I would absolutely love to hear that. But forever only, I would probably also seek out new groups that bring the happiness. I don't think I can completely live without electric guitar.
Yeah, I think the converse side, which
What did Neil say about that?
well, Neon was actually he was surprisingly okay with the acoustic guitar thing, but I think he wasn't particularly sure which one he'd go for either. But he seemed to be kind of okay with acoustic guitar, and he was very supportive of the idea of hearing acoustic guitars. I must admit, I've heard a lot of the heavier bands I like do stuff on acoustic guitar, and it's surprising sometimes when you hear like a really heavy band doing something on acoustic, and you don't even notice that there's no electric in there, because sometimes it's surprising how little difference it makes. If an acoustic's being played properly heavily and being mixed and produced well, it can feel just as heavy, just as gnarly.
I mean, listen to something like Bandmate, the online acoustic online OQG concerts, CD stuff, whatever that is, live stream. That sounds really beautiful, amazing.
Yeah, and you can sound properly heavy acoustic as well, if you got the right mix and the right production. So
Yeah, that's true, but I think if I really had to choose one or the other, I would probably have to leave all my favorite groups behind,
I think that's
as hard as that is.
I think the
But
old
yeah, I'm always looking for the more like how do you call that? Music from today, the music from the present. That's what I'm looking for,
Yeah.
and not like older music. And I think I already know how all these groups sound like. So yeah, I'd rather have something new.
you'd keep your memories, pack your bags, and with a tearful eye, move on to the future.
Yeah,
All right.
that's how it would have to be.
All right, I thought I'd like just set the first question to give you the idea of how weird we're going to be. All right, so you said you pre-prepared 2 questions for this, so let's hear what your first one is, and then we'll move from there.
Yeah, but first I want to hear your answer to that one because I
Oh!
don't know it.
Well,
Like, what do you choose?
This was not part of the game. Oh shit! If that would the case, well, this thing this is where I get into a weird area because like I think a lot of people would be like, oh, Howard doesn't care about electric guitars. Howard really likes electric guitars. Howard really likes a lot of rock music. But to be honest, I don't think it would hurt me as much because like most of the types of rock music I listen to actually function really well acoustically. You know, I mean, like you ever hear a punk band play acoustic? Sounds pretty good. If anything, they just swap out the power chords for full chords, and it ends up sounding like just works better in a different way. Even a lot of the metal bands I like, you know, when you hear their riffs acoustic, I don't think it would bother me. In fact, I think I'd be fine with it. But the interesting flip side to this question, which
Okay.
didn't really come up, is that obviously you're going to find new bands anyway. So I guess I would just be willing to do that. And then if all the
And
new
that's
bands I
why
heard were also going
I
to be,
was thinking like,
well, I'm
yeah,
assuming that
yeah.
obviously all the new bands you hear in this hypothetical situation will also have to be acoustic, and I'd be okay with that. If every band I heard from now on, none of them played electric guitar, I would be sad. I'd miss the sound. I'd crave for the old days, but it would be something where I'd
But
still have new music.
maybe, yeah, maybe I can throw in my question because it actually is kind of similar. I didn't expect that.
Oh shit! Here we go.
um,
We've been agreeing not
my
too
thing
much.
was what, yeah, yeah, yeah. What if electricity was never invented? Was my idea. Um, like, do you think we still would see like some groups that we have today, but doing their style somehow completely acoustic? Or do you think the music landscape would completely be different?
Well, this question's kind of
And like, what
multifaceted.
kind of genres do you think something like pop or metal could come out of an acoustic stuff?
The,
Music,
the,
sound.
the question is somewhat multifaceted because the thing is that obviously you can start by talking about what music sounds like, but especially nowadays, that question leads into things like production, but then on top, sheer process of recording music at all. Then of course, then now we have like the idea of social media, the way that we share music, the way music's popular, the way we find music, the fact that even doing this. Without electricity, I mean,
Also like live performances, like
yes,
making the sound louder for an audience.
just lots of people with like sort of cones in front of their instruments, just using basic acoustics to
Yeah.
amplify them. Um, well, I think the question would really be a case of how would certain things be achieved? Because I think, the idea of things like angry music, having like metal and stuff like that. I think that was societally driven more than technologically driven. Yes, technology had an aspect. You bring in distorted guitars, and not long after you start getting metal. But I don't think that is. I mean, it's not like you can't find classical music that is equally angry. You absolutely can. It just projects it differently. And I would say that if you didn't have electric
Yeah, but
guitar,
like how would a yeah,
I,
like
I I got
just
you on that.
imagining like a punk and thinking of a very aggressive punk song.
I got
Like
you on that.
how
I got you on
could
that.
that even work without electric guitars
Got
and
you on
that
that.
stuff?
I
Okay,
got you on that
I'm listening.
110%. Because the error here is assuming that an electric guitar is the only instrument that sounds like that. Now, before you laugh me off on this, I want you to imagine, and if you haven't heard it, imagine it because it does work. Imagine what happens if you play punk on an accordion, or if you use something like trumpets for doing metal. These instruments can convey the same power, the same aggression. Like a trumpet, a staccato trumpet can stab harder than any guitar. An accordion can play with a real sense of distortion to it. It's got a sort of a naturally gritty sound to it. We're not used to hearing these instruments played like this, but you could get all those same sounds, all that same aggression. If anything, you'd be getting it from a more diverse set of instruments. Yeah, one might rise to the top as the most popular, but because you would have more of a diverse range of instruments doing these same aggressive sounds. For me, the hardest thing would be able to keep a good thumping bass tone, which means I think you'd be more inclined to have things like bands with like two double basses or two cellists or something like that. Sort of really. You'd have to have a bigger bass section to keep up with the volume of everything else because not because bass isn't now, but because bass doesn't naturally project. Kick
That,
drum does, but
actually, I'm not sure if you know that video. There's a video where they're checking out different basses, and there's a bass museum, and they have the largest bass that exists, but it's an actual played bass.
yeah.
It's like, I don't know, 3 times the size of a human or something. But it's actually made to produce volume for a big like concert hall or
Well,
yeah, big
yeah.
audience.
What about church organ? Why wouldn't you just get like a specialized church organ that only plays bass notes? Just like you could get that. You could get like a single looped pipe going into an organ that just plays bass notes. So basically, you've got a bass keyboard. That could be something that would be invented. A powered bass keyboard, which is like some sort of hybrid of a church organ. That could totally happen. That could become the bass instrument of choice. I mean, how you would power that, it would have to go back to how old church organs were powered. I'm not 100% about how they worked, but there's like a lot of air energy happening in that. But I mean, the point is that I think we would probably that the evolution of the heavier music would be different, but I think we would still have it, and it would be really fascinating to see how it would have come about. The area where there wouldn't be the equivalency is we wouldn't have things like this. We wouldn't have podcasts. Music wouldn't be as connected as it is now. It would be much more insular. We'd all have our own local groups. We wouldn't be able to listen to the favorite bands whenever we wanted. That would be a big factor. You know, to only be able to hear your favorite band if they were there in front of you, which means you'd be telling people, I heard this really great band, and you'd be, what did they sound like? Oh, well, I was at their gig and I bought some of their sheet music. Check this out. And we're like, oh, I don't know about that. And whereas nowadays we say, oh, well, that's not a really good recording. You should hear the live version. It's like now it'd be like, oh, yeah, well, I'm playing like this, but you should totally hear them do it live. You know, that's what we'd be getting. That's what we'd be getting. So I think that would be the world that we would be living in. But that is the world that we did live in. But I think society, everything about human society is escalated and accelerated because of technology. It's hard to know how long these things would have taken to happen. But yeah, I think music would have gone in some interesting directions, certainly. But yeah, the invention.
I think you make some interesting points. I'm not sure if I agree about the heaviness part, like that an accordion or a brass instrument can bring the same kind of heaviness. But I mean, acoustic or like classical music in general, orchestral music can be very intense, very dark, very, heavy in a way, but not really the soundscape, I would say.
But it's important.
So yeah, I would have to hear it. I'm open to anyone giving some suggestions where maybe someone tried something like that.
It's important to remember, though, that, I mean, these instruments would have evolved. If metal had become just a thing that was going to inevitably happen, and we're using that as an example, these sounds would have evolved. I mean, like, for example, I mean, look at distortion. I mean, if you want to hear distortion, I mean, using that example of an organ, I mean, think about if you want to get distortion into a guitar, into a car's tailpipe. All you have to do just a little bit of changes to the tailpipe, and you can make a really gnarly sound out of it that is not at all representative of the actual instrument, of the actual car's sound. Make it sound much more gnarly than it really sounds if you're that kind of twat. I mean, there's no reason why if you wanted to create acoustic distortion for another instrument. I mean, look at a trumpet, the hat on a trumpet. I mean, that is a form of doing that. There would have been, these things would have evolved. There would have been an acoustic equivalence evolved to these things. So I believe,
probably.
I believe these things would have all happened. But yeah, it's a fascinating question. Hi, everyone. Okay, you're probably wondering why I'm saying hi, everyone, halfway through the video. Basically, we've just found out, amongst other exciting things, Benedict's internet is really going mad, and my computer decided to just suddenly stop recording for no reason. So we've taken some provisions, but it's still a bit janky. Anyway, I'd already told Benedict what the next question was, and he'd kind of already started answering it, but we're going to try and recap what we were just discussing. So basically, I hit Benedict with the same question related to his Baby Metal tattoo that I gave Neon last time, which was, if Momoko left Baby Metal and Yui could return, or we could continue as we are, what would you go for? So I'll let you recap, but what did you say in regards to that?
Yes. So, obviously a very difficult question for a Baby Metal fan. I obviously love Moa to death.
Well, Momoko's the one at risk.
We were kind of getting to the... Yeah, exactly. Momoko is the one at risk, but I still wouldn't put Yui back because we kind of got to the conclusion we all want to hear Baby Metal evolve and reinvent itself, like you put it so nicely. And yeah, I'm kind of thinking going back to Yui wouldn't be the step in that direction. I'm not sure if you could call it a step back. Would still probably be something different now. But yeah, I like actually what they did with Momoko. We were talking about her different vocals, these classical Japanese vocals she does, and also the screams she can do. So
Yeah.
we will see what the new album will sound like.
I mean, so I touched on this before, but just to quickly reiterate, yeah, I feel like the whole heart of Babe Metal is very much one of reinvention. Reinvention is very much at the core of what they do, and I think one of the biggest things. It's now been long enough since Yui left that, don't get me wrong, if Yui was in, I'm sure they'd do new and exciting things, and I'm sure it'd be great. But there would always be that air of, stepping a little, trying to recapture the past, which just, to me, that's not what Babe Metal is. Babe Metal is all about trying to find a new future. And I know you love the other one, but I kind of said, as much as I really like that album as well, it was the first album I'd heard, and yes, it is an album, from Babe Metal that felt a little bit like it was not complacent, but just a little bit. It wasn't really reinventing. It wasn't, pushing the boundaries that we're used to from Babe Metal. It just felt quite comfortable. And it was successful at releasing good songs as a result, but
It's still did enough new stuff. They tried enough new
you must be
influences.
I mean, I'm excited about this new album because I almost feel like they hopefully will lean into Momoko's presence and it will create even more awesome new stuff as a result. So
Yeah, exactly. But that's why I wouldn't put Yui back, even though I love Yui, and I would also love to hear more Black Baby Metal stuff. But we talked about it right before.
can't call it Black Baby Metal.
Maybe do something. Exactly, you just can't call it Black Baby Metal, but do Momoko and more. Do some dark baby metal or death baby metal. I don't know, whatever.
Pink Baby Metal or
But
white
do
baby
something
metal.
with that, and you could go pretty heavy with Momoko doing some screams on there. So
Yeah.
I think, why not? Give it a try.
You mentioned about the Scream stuff, and although we briefly touched on the fact that I wasn't a big fan of how she did that in the live version of Metali, at least the version I heard, quintessentially, the idea of her doing screams and growls, though, I do think that could work. I mean, you mentioned a moment ago about how Babe Metal has had in most of their iterations has had growls in the background delivered by someone else, by a backing vocalist. Why not have a member do that?
Yes, exactly.
I think if it was something like Papaya, which I know is not everyone's favorite song, but that song has a lot of quintessentially is based around a sort of a growled chant. Why not have a member of the band actually deliver that? Why not have Momoko deliver? Oh, he's come back. Internet. There we go. But yeah, why not have Momoko deliver those kind of growled lines? Have them done by a member of the band. It doesn't so much change them as bring that in-house. I think he can hear me. Can you hear me? Did you hear?
Still going on.
Did you hear what I said? Sorry about this. The fight against the internet continues.
Man. Okay, I'm back.
Hey! So yeah, I was basically just recapping that it would be nice to have the growls and everything delivered by a member of the group in-house, like as you had mentioned before.
Yeah, I got that.
Excellent. All right. So anything else we can add to that, considering we're basically recapping a conversation that we had previously that my computer didn't bother to record? Any other points that I think we've condensed it into a much shorter version now?
Yeah. I think we said most. I mean, yeah, probably most old baby metal fans would prefer to have Yui, I'm guessing. But you can let us know about that in the
Oh, they will let us know about that. I'm very sure they'll let us know about that. You're asking them, but they've already typed the messages by this point. All right.
As soon as they're at Yui.
Yeah, I've always found it like it's a really interesting fan base because you've got everyone from the most casual to the most heartfelt fans in the baby metal community. So we're definitely going to get some responses from this, especially considering like when I did this with Neon, he was very much about he wanted to see the old lineup just because nostalgia. He never got to see the original lineup of baby metal live. He wanted to see them back for that reason. But as we were saying, baby metal was about moving towards the future. So as much as we all miss that. We want to see them reinvent as they go.
Or you just add Yui back in and do some kind of 4-piece constellation.
that would be really awesome. It would perhaps be rather interesting to see how that would work. Or maybe
But
we
I think we
have
talked about like
Yui
the three-piece
Momoko.
kind of baby metal is supposed to be a three-piece, and it just works also with the choreography on stage. A four-piece with one lead singer doesn't really work.
Well, you could have Yui Momoko, Moa, and No Su. There comes the angry comments. Okay, so do you want to float your second what if question for today? Because I think we're doing two each today, aren't we?
Yeah, okay. So I was thinking about what if it is the day of the apocalypse and
Oh.
the dead are rising from the dead. The dead are rising from the dead, from the grave.
We're still dead. We're just doing it more
Which-
vertically.
So, which musicians would you love to come back from the grave to play the soundtrack for the apocalypse as a zombie band?
This is the best insane question ever. I was like, when you said
Yes,
this,
exactly.
I was like, what band would you like to see on your last day on Earth or something like that? But you literally want to know what dead people I want back.
Yes, exactly.
This is well. See, the biggest problem for me, and I'm going to get like probably hate from real music fans. Most of my favorite musicians are alive right now.
Okay.
It's kind of hard for me to bring back people from the dead when most of my favorite musicians are alive right now. Do you know, the weird thing is, for someone who presents like a channel about Japanese music, and for someone who's like, you know, on Ears These right now, honestly, if I was talking about that and you're giving me the whole of history to pick from, I would probably go for something similar to that scene in the first Bill and Ted film where they bring back Beethoven and they give him access to that electric keyboard. I would probably go like really old school. I'd bring back a classical composer. I'd bring back one of the original like pioneers of like traditional Japanese folk music, something like that. I would want to go right back in time, grab someone really from history, like classical or very much into traditional music, bring them forward.
Like, how would you, let's say you are allowed to combine this person or these musicians with a group that still is alive and still
Wagaki Band. It's got to be
works.
Wagaki Band. Got to be like Wagaki Band are your door to the past and the future. It's like they will know exactly how to deal with the situation. Assuming we're talking about someone from Japanese history. If it was someone from Western history, probably still Wagaki Band. Just say, don't worry, the Asians took over the earth. So it's all right, Beethoven. Everyone's Asian now. But you know, I would, I would be fascinated, genuinely fascinated to know. But the problem is, you've only got one day left, and they'd be too interested in all. They'd be like, "What's electricity? What the hell is going on?" It probably wouldn't be a very productive day, if I'm honest with you.
Yeah. I mean, it's the apocalypse. Don't have to be productive anymore.
So the future's very violent. It's like, well, it is the future, but it's also the end of the future. There isn't going to be anything after this. Well, except for quiet.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So we brought you back just to kill you again. It's like, now play a tune.
What kind of tune would you have them play?
I was about to say, in that case, you don't want Beethoven. You go for some Wagner. Actually, I don't know. He had some very weird views about humanity. Maybe not Wagner. But you'd want someone. Want someone who's kind of okay writing songs about the end of the world. I don't know. I feel like Mahler was depressed all the time. Mahler was depressed all the time.
Okay.
Let's get Mahler. Yeah, I don't know. I think it would be difficult because of the time constraints of the world ending. But I would definitely want to have a fish out of water, a timeless person from prior to the contemporary age. Because when it comes to contemporary music, I feel like, and again, I know this is an unpopular opinion, but I feel like contemporary music is still improving. Not in the West, but in Japan, contemporary music is improving. If you gave me bands from the 70s, sorry, I know there's like lots of classic bands from the 70s. I would trade in almost any of them for the bands we got right now. Like the bands we got
Yeah, I
now
think
are
the same.
better. They're better, and it's not against the bands from then. It's just because they contemporary music is less than a century. You know, the music we used to now, pop and rock, is less than a century old. It's barely over half
Yeah,
a century
true,
old. You know,
true.
it's still being perfected in the areas of the world where they actually want to perfect it rather than just go for common denominator. So yeah, I don't think I would be bringing back anyone from the dead unless they were from a totally different time and could just throw such a weird, like left hook sort of perspective on our music. That's what I'd want to hear. I'd want to hear someone who just like looked at it and just saw it from a totally different light. Because one of the true things, right? And this is totally true. I used to find when you're working with musicians who've been maybe around for a few years but haven't quite got to the point they want to, or maybe they want to create a new project. I always say to them, don't look for like really experienced, great musicians to work with. Get a couple of them, but get someone who's totally fresh, who is not seasoned, and put them in your lineup. Because that person will look at music differently from you. They will not be stuck in their ways. And
Yeah.
that person will throw things out where even if they're not as good as everyone else in the band, you'll be like, oh, this is actually how I feel Miku might be in Bandmade, because she was not like the experienced musician, but she was a creative, which means you put her in the band and she's going to say, how about we do this? And like all the experienced musicians might look around and go, that's
Like
weird.
Miku has the advantage that she's still kind of the leader of the group, even though she might not be the most musical trained.
But I feel she commands that respect through obviously hard work. You know, she is very
Yeah.
entrepreneurial, but also because she has a creative vision that I think comes from not being seasoned. It is true that although some people maintain that, even the best of musicians, it's very hard to maintain that totally fresh faced perspective that gives you access. This is why so many artists fail to capture the early years, because that's when they had no jadedness. They didn't even know what they wanted to do. A lot of it was just the chaos of their own imagination. So
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
I'm bringing someone back from the past, it would have to be someone who could look at, who would have the talent of being a legend, but also would be completely fresh faced to all the things that they have access to now. So yeah, I would go for someone from a different century probably. I'm interested because
Okay.
you asked this question, so you must have had an opinion in your mind.
Well, I thought about one person, which is or was my absolute favorite guitarist, which was Mikio from the Kami band,
I
who
figured that
unfortunately
might have
passed
been.
away.
I figured that might have been the reason you asked it, because that was the first name that came to my mind when I thought about it.
But I also asked that question because I know you like classical music also. So I actually expected you to kind of go in that direction. Um, I'm just wondering, if someone like, I don't know, Beethoven would come up and then he would hear music from this day, maybe he would just say, what the crap is this? This isn't music.
I mean, if I was going for a classical composer, I mean, there's a part of me that would want to go for Bach just because Bach had like the ability to go so absolutely mental on some of the songs. You just have like songs, pieces that would go into like really crazy territory. But the truth is that you'd have to go for Mozart, because Mozart just had the core values of songwriting down so much that I feel like Mozart's the person who would most easily transfer into other things. 'Cause I just feel like Mozart just is very
He
like,
had that certain craziness.
yeah, but also knew like, if you were to take any, I mean, this is really ridiculous, but if you were to take any classical composer and say, I just want you to write a melody for a pop song, Mozart definitely would be the one who would be able to like just sort of whip out a melody and go, bam, there you go. It's like you just know that it's not just the ability to write a symphony. It's not just the ability to write big arrangements. He also knows how to like nail the core quality. And I think that ability and the fact that he worked with so many different sounds just demonstrates that. I mean, there's a lot of other composers. I just think Mozart is the tried, tested, proven, all-rounder, core qualities down. It might sound like the most basic and easy one to go back to, but I think that's because of the fact that he's proven himself. And yeah, I would love to see much more than Beethoven. I'd love to see Mozart like just given access to the new stuff and go, all right, what do you think we should do? Because I think he would. I think he would be able to pull it off. I don't know anything about his character. I mean, if he was an asshole, then maybe he died
Yeah.
young, didn't he? I mean, but assuming that he wasn't a
Yeah,
dick
he died
about it,
pretty
I think
young.
he'd have the talent to do it, even if he. I don't know about his temperament, but he'd definitely have the talent to do it. I think.
But I think also he died pretty poor.
Oh, let's bring him back. Give him a number one
Not
hit single. Ba, ba, ba.
didn't really
Mozart.
get the appreciation he deserved that time.
The greats never do, which is why I'm
No, so
suspecting
maybe
this
he would go crazy on stage.
It's like Mozart. I want to introduce you to the concept of a drop. Mozart's about to drop the beat on you.
Okay.
Yeah, I would be 100% down for here. I think he would be the one who transfer most. But yeah, so ironically, I mean, the funny thing is that I know a lot about the history of Japanese music, but I don't know. I know a fair bit, I should say. But I don't know a lot about any individual character who I'd say, oh, they are the quintessential essence of what makes Japanese music Japanese music. Plus, I feel like a lot of
I
Japanese
wanted to
music.
ask if there's like a name out of Japan that's comparable to like Mozart or Beethoven or Bach or whatever.
When I think about the Japanese traditional music that most resonates with myself, and I think is probably most telling, a lot of it is that music that comes from the just the gorgeous sound of when you have koto, shakuhachi, and shamisen together. I mean, that trio is just gorgeous, and obviously get vocals and taiko occasionally as well. And a lot of that music is born from a certain degree of improvisation. There are the standards. There are the standards that are known, but it's very much born from improvisation a lot as well. Which is why you can have pieces where they just keep on going. I know you could do that with anything. You could do that with jazz, but I mean, it's very much in the DNA. And I think this is also why, if you look at songwriting, Japanese music is particularly known for chord patterns that do not resolve. And I think that comes from, you listen to like koto and shamisen music, shakuhachi music as well. A lot of that music, it just seems to never resolve because that's how it keeps going, and it's even written into the very scale that the instruments play. They are scales that allow you to continue moving on without resolving, and it sounds satisfying at the same time. So, that this is kind of the way those instruments, in my understanding of the history and my feeling of the songwriting style, this is how they're born to be. So it's not so much like you don't have the. I'm sure there are greats who I don't know, but you don't have quite the same thing as like the sort of the Mozarts, the Beethovens, the Bachs, who write these gigantic symphonic pieces that have to be played and interpreted in a specific way over a set number of movements. It's not. I guess you do have some things. I mean, obviously, growing up from Chinese operas that would have had an influence as well. But I mean, I just feel like for the similarities that could be drawn, I think that's more of a Western thing. Which is interesting.
Looking at a list of like the greatest Japanese composers of all time, apparently, but I don't know anyone.
I would actually float this one out there because, as I say, my knowledge of the history of music is more like a history lesson. How certain writing techniques and everything evolve. But I would actually be quite interested if there's someone who's got a genuine knowledge of the classics. I would love for someone to put forward names of particular written pieces. I might already know them, I might recognize them, but written pieces or famous composers from Japanese music history that you think I should check out. I'd love to see them, because maybe if I'm listening to them, I'm like, oh yeah, I might re-condemn Mozart to death in Benedict's Zombie Apocalypse just to bring back your alternate. So,
I mean, that's the thing. All the classical music we know, it's Western classical music. I haven't actually heard a lot of like classic music from other parts of the world, from Asia, for example.
I do
Always
listen
thinking
to
like
a lot of
traditional,
different-
the traditional
Yeah.
shamisen wagaki band style sound, but I'm not really sure if that really is classical music from Japan, or if
What
it's just like traditional instruments that they are using.
what we would call classical music when we think of things like symphonies and such like, it isn't. I mean, obviously Japan has that, but it's not the same. If you look at the music purely born of Japanese history, it is that sort of shamisen, shakuhachi, koto, taiko type of music that in a way has more connection to folk. Well, it's somewhere between folk and classical. It has aspects of both, but it's not what we would call folk. It's not what we call classical. It is a sort of a musical style very much born of itself. So that is the equivalent. But yeah, so again, I would love to know. I listen to a lot of Japanese, like that kind of music. It's what I use to chill out a lot of the time because it's just very relaxing. Yeah, so I love that kind of music. But I'm going to be honest, I'm sure I've got more blind spots than I have places where I've seen. So throw it in there. If you know your stuff, I will be very happy to hear from you. But for now...
cannot know everything.
For now, I'm bringing back Mozart.
All right, zombie Mozart it is.
I'll deal with his angry old man face as he walks around complaining about shit. Kids these days, it's like, Jesus Christ, Mozart, everyone's about to die. Just play some fucking electric guitar and chill.
Can you play the guitar as well? Probably.
Hey, better. It's like, I brought you back. I expect at least one Love Bite solo. Yeah, just Mozart starts shredding. You're like, where the fuck do you know that?
Somehow I imagine Mozart with Get Your Spin like going crazy wild, but I'm not sure why I have this picture of him being like such a quirky guy.
I have
no idea.
I just mentally had the image of Mozart versus Oreo, like keyboard showdown. Let's make it happen.
Nice.
Let's make it happen.
Okay.
I don't know how, but let's make it happen.
Let's call Neon to resurrect Mozart, and then we go.
Is that a skill he has? I need to spend more time with Neon.
I'm thinking of his... He was talking about Resurrection in one of his songs. In one of the songs he picked.
Oh, okay.
From Unlucky Morpheus. Yeah.
He's big into the occult, is Neon. Let's make up lots of lies about Neon just to like remember. He's big into the occult. Yeah, Ouija boards.
Number one, he can raise the dead.
That one's not a lie. Anyway, well, I think we'll...
He needs to rise from the dead himself first.
Oh my god, it's kind of true.
No, he's not dead.
Or is he? Oh god, I really hope he's not.
No.
Look, a big thank you to everyone watching. It's been really cool. I enjoyed doing this again. These what if ones are fun. Maybe next, as we've both done this now, maybe we'll do an episode where we can we might get a link and do like a private collection. You can sometimes get websites where people can put in like answers to a question, but you only see them when you open it. So maybe something like that where people can put questions in the hat for potential what ifs. We might do something like that and then follow up on it later. But I really enjoyed this. If you guys enjoying this format, let us know.
I mean, leave it in the comments if you have some questions.
I'm wondering if making them a surprise is a better thing. But anyway, we'll work it out. You can leave them in the comments if you want to keep them as a surprise.
You think everyone will read the comments?
Well, we might. But yeah, okay. I tell you, put them in the comments. We'll work it out later. Yeah.
True. Yeah.
Anyway, either way, if you've got a question that you want to keep secret, so you want to see our reaction to it, you can do that as well, and we'll work something out. Just tell us if you've got a question that you don't want to reveal yet, and we'll work out somewhere for you to hide it so we can see it at the time. But anyway, I'm going to call this one quits for now. And technical problems aside, this was a really good episode. And until we see you very soon, remember to keep your ears.
Keep your ears to the...